Welcome to Health, Wellbeing and Lifestyle, where professionals in the field inform, educate and inspire the community to be healthier, more balanced and live the lifestyle they love. Our first guest today is Marc Noyce, and he's an urban food specialist, and the topic we'll be discussing is the joys and benefits of creating your own urban garden. Welcome, Marc.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for coming. So Marc, what are the joys and benefits of creating your own urban garden?
The joys of urban gardening are multiple. There are so many joys of urban gardening, which include your own nutrition, your mental health, contacting and being in contact with your friends and reconnecting with your family that you haven't seen, your long lost aunt that you haven't seen for a while. Urban gardening just gives you that excuse to knock on the door and say, hey, I've got some food. Would you like to share a meal with me? I grew this in my own garden. And that's one of the things about being able to give, being able to look after something, looking after your own nutrition, looking after your friends and family. And that's really what the joys of urban farming is about. It's also about knowing where my food comes from. You know, growing your own food, you know what went into it, you watched it grow, you watched it mature, and then you know exactly where that food comes from. And not only that, it's fun. It is just fun to come home and see your garden. Like sometimes I talk to my plants. After a long day, I go out there and I say, hey plants, how you going? And they seem happy to see me because if you give them the right things in terms of sunlight, water, food, they look after themselves. So not only can we have individuals growing food, we can actually have communities growing food. And I get involved in schools, I get involved in community gardens, and where from nothing a community comes together, and sometimes people are quite isolated and they don't have any friends, they don't have any family nearby, and they're living in a very small space. So to be able to come to a urban farm and meet people, share food and share stories of how to grow food and tips and tricks. Schools are absolutely fantastic mechanisms to get young people into urban farming. Learning from the ground up how to look after yourself, how to look after others, from growing your own food at home and getting in contact with your food and learning about where your food comes from is just setting up a whole next level, next generation of urban farmers to be self-sufficient.
Marc, I live in a small urban environment. How can I overcome some of those challenges in creating my garden?
In cities, we live in a concrete jungle. Sometimes there's not a lot of space, sometimes there's not a lot of light, and we're busy too. So sometimes we don't have a lot of time to give to our plants. So these are real challenges. Wind's a really big problem in urban environments. It can get very windy. There are stray pets, there are bugs, there are things that want to eat all our produce. It seems like everything's against us in an urban environment. But these challenges can be overcome when you have the right technology, when you have the right approach, when you get your nutrition right for your plants, when you get the watering right, and if you can get your plants to self-water, if you can get your compost, you can close your nutrient loop by composting your own green waste at home, turning that into a resource for plants to grow, and closing our nutrient loop is really a great way of being self-sufficient and overcoming these challenges that cities have where our food waste is a one-way street. We can turn that around. Cities also have abundant stormwater or rainwater runoff, so we have an abundance of water, we have an abundance of nutrition in terms of food waste. We can turn those around in an urban environment to grow healthy, nutritious food, and we can do it in really small spaces.
What are some top tricks and tricks for our audience to create their own urban gardens?
It depends on what you're going to grow. So if you want to grow tomatoes, for example, they need a lot of sunlight. They need like up to 10 hours of sunlight a day. If you want to grow lettuce and herbs, well, some of these plants can survive and thrive, if you like, on only 4 hours of sunlight. So it really depends on where your balcony's placed, where your sunlight comes in, and what you want to grow. So knowing a little bit about the types of plants you want to grow really helps set up where you need to put them, helps set up your urban farm in terms of what produce you're going to get out, and you can grow a lot of food in a very small space. In some cases you can grow up to 25 kilos worth of food in just 1 square metre, which is amazing. So if you think about what an average person would consume in Australia, and that's 75 kilos of vegetables per annum. We should eat 150, but only 5% of Australians get to 150 kilograms of vegetable matter per annum. So we can get our average food consumption in only 3 square metres, which is amazing. So a tip would be find a space that's relatively sunny. Try to protect your plants from the wind as much as possible with either netting, and get yourself a wicking garden bed. Now, if you don't know a wicking garden bed, if you've ever put a dishcloth into the water, you see the water rise up out of the water up the dishcloth. Well, that's wicking. That is capillary action. So that's what draws water up from a water reservoir. And a wicking garden bed allows you to have a self-watering pot plant that has a water reservoir that is always making water available to the plants. And so if a plant has access to water whenever it needs it, it's going to be optimal, it's going to reach its full potential, and you're going to have a healthier garden every single time. Get the other things right in terms of soil nutrition, which is a high quality compost, something very fibrous to help draw that water up out of your wicking garden bed or your self-watering pot plant, and your plant will be as healthy as it possibly can. Get the right nutrition into the compost, and it'll have all the trace elements that it needs. So a good quality potting mix is essential. You can make your own potting mix by composting at home, taking your green waste and turning that into a nutritious source of food for your plants. And technology has come a long way with wicking garden beds these days. So you can have free draining and wicking in some of these systems, which is optimal.
Thanks, Marc. That's such good, useful information. If you'd like to know more about Marc Noyce and the benefits of creating your own urban garden bed, please go to his webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And after the break, we'll have another interesting guest with another interesting topic. Stay tuned. After the break, Naturopath lecturer and author Michèle Wolff will be talking about, are bloating and irritable bowel syndrome curable? Welcome back. Our next guest, Michèle Wolff, is a naturopath lecturer and author, and the topic we'll be discussing is, are irritable bowel symptoms curable? Welcome, Michèle.
Hi, Megan.
So, what is the cause of irritable bowel symptoms?
It can be many causes, and I'll also just describe the symptoms because they can be very varied. So irritable bowel is a broad term that can cover alternating constipation and diarrhea, bloating, excessive wind, and pain and cramping in the gut. You know, some people may be diagnosed with irritable bowel and tend more to constipation, others may have diarrhea. So there can be several different symptoms involved. Yes, it's definitely curable once the cause has been found. So there's lots of different causes to irritable bowel. So it can be, for example, a type of pathology, which could be an overgrowth of bacteria, abnormal bacteria, like streptococcus or enterococcus. It could be an overgrowth of a parasite, it could be overgrowth of a fungus, it could be an intolerance or an allergy to a particular food. It can be simply stress that causes it, or a lack of a nutrient that is used up due to stress, like magnesium, which is a relaxant to the gut. And it could be due to a lifestyle where there's, for example, a truck driver who sits for hours, or somebody that has a lot of shift work and they're changing hours. That can cause problems with the gut and a lot of discomfort and bloating. And it can be something more serious that needs to be investigated. You know, like people can have bloating when they've got ovarian cancer. That's an extreme example, but these things are not to be overlooked. So I would normally ask a lot of questions to define what I think that the cause is. And there can also be a problem with the upper digestion. So if somebody's not producing enough digestive enzymes or bile from their gallbladder or hydrochloric acid, or they've got small intestine bacterial overgrowth, which is higher up, then that can lead to irritable bowel symptoms as well. So it's quite varied, but they can all be cured if they have the right medicine.
So irritable bowel is curable?
Yes, it's definitely curable. So once we found out what the cause is, so you know, if you're intolerant to wheat, it may be taking the wheat out, allowing the bowel to heal, giving specific herbs and remedies, and then there may be a time that you can bring wheat back in, as long as there's not something more serious like celiac disease, which can cause irritable bowel as well. That can be masked as it as well. If there is a parasite infection diagnosed, then we will use specific herbs for specific parasites. So we may use wormwood or garlic or Artemisia annua, black walnut, there is a pomegranate, there's a whole range of herbs depending on which parasite there is, and the herbs need to be tailored by a naturopath. I wouldn't go out and take them yourself, because it's a certain amount of meals and the prescription is quite defined. If it's a fungus, we would use herbs like golden seal podarco, horopito, to name a few, and they would be given for a certain amount of time along with a diet that starves out fungus, and along with correcting the microbiome. So just like you have healthy soil with good healthy bacteria and then your plants grow really strong, we want to have healthy flora and fauna in the gut, and then the parasites don't come in the first place. Also, if you've got really healthy hydrochloric acid in your stomach, that's one of your first lines of defences. So if somebody has a lettuce leaf with a parasite egg on it and they chew that, and you've got good amounts of hydrochloric acid, that will kill it off in the stomach. If they don't, then it passes into the bowel and then can hatch into a parasite. So it's having all the defences in place. Also, the intestine is 70 to 80% of our immune system. So we want that to be really healthy so that the immune system also fights off things like fungus and bacteria and parasites. So it's all curable through lifestyle and through managing stress, through certain herbal medicine and certain nutrients. And guidance with lifestyle practices from somebody like myself. And if I think it's something more complicated, I'll refer to a doctor.
That's such good information, thank you. So do you have any extra tips for our viewers?
Yes. So if you're having something bitter or sour with most of your meals, you'll be helping to stimulate your good digestive juices, which is preventative for a start. Eat calmly, eat sitting down, avoid eating when you're stressed, because that can lead to more bloating and more irritable bowel. And it doesn't hurt to miss a meal or two if you're really stressed. Just wait till you're really calm. Obviously, if you're ongoingly not nourishing yourself, there's a problem. But a few hours or a few days is no problem. Having the spices which I have mentioned before, like fennel, ginger, cardamom, peppermint as digestive spices to strengthen the gut, really helps. And if you're going overseas to a foreign country where you may pick up a parasite, take a really good non-refrigerated probiotic with you and ask your naturopath what you can take with you to both prevent and treat parasites so that you can sort of knock it on the head quicker. And then if you're living a healthy, balanced lifestyle with good food, lots of rest, good fluid, healthy relationships, then your own system will be in balance to ward these things off. Sometimes it's when we get out of balance that we get more prone to things like irritable bowel.
That's such valuable information, Michèle. If you'd like to know more about Michèle Wolff and irritable bowel symptoms, please go to Michèle's webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. And after the break, we have another interesting guest with another interesting topic.
Stay tuned. After the break, Lifestyle GP Dr. Avi Charlton will be talking about the health benefits of functional breathing. Welcome back. Our last guest today is Lifestyle GP Dr. Avi Charlton, and we will be talking about the health benefits of functional breathing. Welcome back.
Thank you for having me again, Stephanie.
Dr. Avi, what is functional breathing and what are the health benefits of it?
To understand functional breathing, we've got to understand dysfunctional breathing. Dysfunctional breathing means not breathing properly. What happens is if we don't breathe properly, we can get more anxious, we suffer from palpitations, and if we use our mouth to breathe a lot, then we yawn a lot and we feel like we need to take big breaths all the time. We feel like we're not getting enough air, we feel short of breath. What happens when people don't breathe properly is they might not sleep properly as well. Sometimes some people snore and then they use their mouth for breathing rather than the nose for breathing. Then they don't sleep well. They wake up not having enough energy and it becomes a vicious cycle. Then they don't breathe well during the day. They feel like they're short of breath. They feel anxious and they don't have enough energy to perform in the day-to-day activities. There's signs that can tell you that if you're not breathing properly, you might yawn, you might feel short of breath and you feel like you're gasping for air. Sometimes you get palpitations or even reflux.
How can our viewers use breathing to improve their health?
So there's a few little things and then there's a few breathing exercises that we can do. What we can do is we can practice breathing light, breathing slow and breathing deep. So I'll elaborate each tip. Breathing light means we don't take big, huge breaths all the time, and practicing breathing less amplitude breathing, light breathing. What that can do is that can tell your body to hold more carbon dioxide, and there's a little bit of science to it that it actually tells your oxygen to get into your body, the brain, the muscles more. So light breathing improves our carbon dioxide tolerance. Deep breathing means we practice breathing into the diaphragm. What we can do is we can practice getting our hands to feel our rib cage. If we breathe into our rib cage, our ribs will come out and then our belly will go out. As we breathe out, our rib cage will go in and our belly will go in. So we practice deep breathing into our diaphragm as feeling our rib cage go out. So there's breathing light, breathing deep, and breathing slow. So what we can do is we can practice slowing down our breathing. We can do breathing exercises that involve slowing down. If you're new to this, you can do counts, breathing in for 3 and out for 3, breathing exercises. Then if you get better at it, you can breathe in for 4, out for 4, or even in for 5 and building up to as long as you can, as you tolerate on breathing exercises. Then there's breath holding exercises that you can slowly incorporate into your life. There's a technique called box breathing, Box breathing means that you take a breath in for 4 counts, and then hold for 4 counts, and then out for 4 counts, and then hold again for 4 counts. And then if you can do 4 counts, you can increase it to 5 counts or even 6 counts. This technique is used by the Navy SEALs to slow down their anxiety, calm them down, and that can improve their mental health. That helps to improve our breathing and reduce anxiety, improve our well-being as well. Then there's lots of other breath holding exercises that we can practice. Let's say you're going out for a walk, you can do some breath holding. If you're new at it, you can hold, pinching your nose for 10 steps, and then you can release and walk 10 steps. Then you can repeat it again 5 or 6 times, doing breath holding exercises. As you get better, you can increase it to 15 steps or even 20 steps. Then that helps to tell our body that we can hold on to carbon dioxide more. Then your body can learn to tolerate higher carbon dioxides. That actually gets your body, your muscles, and your brain to have more oxygen delivered. That in turn improve your mental health, improve cognition, and you function better. The more we breathe through your nose, the more you breathe through your nose at night when you're sleeping as well. We also talk about using mouth tape to tape your mouth so you don't breathe through your mouth at night, especially for those who don't know if you're breathing through your mouth at night. And some people worry about that they will suffocate if they're breathing through, if they have their mouth taped. There are lots of different mouth tapes. Some of them have a little slit that doesn't cover their mouth, and that might help you to get used to a mouth tape and practice breathing more nose breathing. In turn, that can help with better sleep and better function during the day. With children, what happens if the children breathing through their mouth is they can get facial development problems. If they breathe through their mouth too much, the jaw development isn't quite right, and they can get facial development problems, receding jaws, and they're more likely to need orthodontic treatment, braces. So what parents can do is they can remind their children to breathe through their nose more often, all the time, and even at night they can mouth tape the kids. They might have to get used to it, and you can get special mouth tapes that has a slit in the middle. And there are exercises called buteyko exercises that their mothers can do games with the children, practice more nose breathing and even breath holding. What I suggest is people can seek help with professionals who are trained in breath work and breathing exercises, who talk about how to breathe functionally. So we can get the right guidance to talk about functional breathing, get the right exercises for breath work. In that way, you can get the right advice on how to breathe properly.
Great. I'm going to be checking my breath for the rest of the day.
That's great.
Thank you for that information.
Thank you, Stephanie.
If you would like to know more about functional breathing and Dr. Avi Charlton, please visit her webpage on our website, healthwellbeingandlifestyle.com.au. That's all we have time for today. Goodbye until next week.
If you'd like to know more about our show, please like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube channel.